What are the deadliest wars in human history? Let's begin with the Second Congo War in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which began in 1998 and ended in 2003, but not before claiming the lives of 3.8 to 5.4 million people. 8 African nations and around 25 various armed groups were involved, and this was the most costly war, at least in human lives, since World War II, but we'll get to that one in a bit. Number 9. The Russian Civil War. The Russians are really good at killing people, especially their own people, and this is proven true by their own civil war between 1917 and 1921. This conflict helped pull the Russians out of World War I, but it plunged them into a fight that would cost somewhere between 5 and 9 million of their own citizens' lives. This isn't as bad as Stalin's purges, which killed roughly 20 million Russians, but that wasn't a war, just a slaughter. This is also noteworthy because it gave rise to communism and formed the Soviet Union, which also cost millions of lives. But I digress. Number 8. The Dungan Revolt, which lasted from 1862 to 1877 and claimed the lives of 8 to 12 million Chinese. This uprising was virtually pointless as the warring bands simply fought to fight and had no real goals and didn't even attack the Qing dynasty or the capital of Beijing. Seems like a pretty useless waste of human lives to me. Number 7. Timur's Conquests. Between 1369 and 1405, Timur attempted to reconstruct the Mongol Empire, which we'll look at later on. His battles and raids, which took place in Russia, Central Asia, India, and the Middle East, claimed 15 to 20 million lives, almost 5% of the world population at the time. He failed to truly rebuild the Mongol Empire to its former glory, mainly because of the Ottomans being so good at losing a lot of people and not giving up. Number 6. The Great War. Better known as World War I, this conflict spanned most of Europe and estimates range from 15 to 65 million deaths resulting from the war. This was sparked by the death of just one man with an excellent mustache who happened to be important to a nation which was important to several other nations. It's confusing, so I'll discuss it in a future video. Number 5. The Taiping Rebellion. The Chinese, like the Russians, are really good at killing each other. In the second Chinese uprising on this list, 20 to 30 million people died between 1851 and 1864. Bear in mind that this rebellion didn't end until 1864 and the aforementioned Dungan Revolt began in 1862. So really, between 1851 and 1877, somewhere upwards of 42 million Chinese died as a result of other Chinese people. Rough. Number 4. Moving back a little over 200 years to 1616, the new Qing dynasty in China was trying really hard to kill off the Ming dynasty. This conflict didn't end until 1662, exactly 200 years before the Dungan Revolt, and cost 25 million people their lives. This, again, was almost 5% of all humans on Earth. Dear God. Number 3. Let's move on to the Mongol Empire, which Timur later tried, and failed, to rebuild. The original empire spanned across Eurasia and, as John Green loves to point out in Crash Course, they were really good at everything involving conquest. Their speedy trip across the map killed somewhere between 30 and 60 million people. This sounds like a lot, and it is, but it doesn't give you a real context for how terrible this really was at the time. The Mongols began their conquest in 1207 and it effectively ended in 1472. So, with the assumption that 60 million people died, the Mongols are responsible for wiping out over 17% of the world population, as well as destroying a dynasty in China, several empires in Russia and the Middle East, and helping to end my favorite empire of all time, the Roman Empire. Number 2. The Lushan Rebellion. China has its roots in killing each other, as I mentioned before. While this conflict cost less lives than the Mongol conquest, it is ranked higher because 36 million people died in under a decade between 755 and 763. This would have been 15% of the world population at the time. It's quite scary when you think about it. But now, it's time to move on to one of the saddest examples of human cruelty and slaughter upon our fellow man. Coming in at number 1 for the deadliest war in human history is World War II. Bet you couldn't have guessed that one. Between 1931, the year when Japan invaded Manchuria and when World War II realistically began, and 1945, when the United States dropped the only 2 nuclear weapons ever used in warfare on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, effectively ending the war, somewhere around 72 million people lost their lives. With such a large world population at the time, this was only about 3% of all humans, but even more were wounded or displaced or tortured or maimed or poisoned by radiation following the atomic bombs being dropped. This massive conflict involved Germany, Italy, Japan, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, Austria, Ethiopia, the Republic of China, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Newfoundland, New Zealand, South Africa, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, the United States, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Egypt, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, Iraq, Lebanon, Liberia, Mexico, Mongolia, Nicaragua, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Uruguay, Venezuela, Algeria, Albania, Belgium, Burma, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Greece, Iceland, India, Iran, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Morocco, the Netherlands, New Guinea, Norway, the Philippines, Poland, Singapore, Syria, Thailand, Tunisia, and Yugoslavia. Wow. It is no surprise with this many nations involved that so many people died, not to mention the massive boom of military technology that was instituted for this epic showdown between the Axis and Allied powers. The Holocaust, or the systematic extermination of over 6 million Jews, blacks, cripples, homosexuals, and anyone else deemed unfit for existence, was also a major piece of this horrible puzzle. But I want this video to end on a happy note, so here's a kitten. Please be sure to subscribe. I'm just a boy. Thanks for watching.